Let us know, David, when you're good to go.
We're all set.
All right, here we go.
Quiet on the set, please.
Welcome to Tales, Tunes, and Tomfoolery starring Jerry Springer, along with Gene Galvin and me. I'm Megan Hills. We're recorded live in front of a brilliant studio audience at the Folk School Coffee Parlor in Ludlow, Kentucky.
My daddy
And
came
here he is,
home
ladies and gentlemen,
every
Mr.
day
Jerry
from
Springer.
there.
Oh my God! I'm so embarrassed. I'm wearing this same sweater I wore in the last podcast.
So embarrassing.
Notice
This is
that. Yeah.
unbelievable.
Hey, by the way, is
Yes.
it true that remember you were telling me about your Uncle Leo the other day?
Yeah,
And
gosh, I haven't seen him in years.
didn't you tell me that he called you like all excited that Hillary won, Hillary won?
Aww.
And isn't it true? You told me this, and you said, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And he says, well, I heard it on the news. But then we found out he has a hearing aid. Is that not true? And he told you something
See what he
about
did
this
there?
hearing aid.
Yeah, and he's very excited about his hearing aid. He was talking more about that than he was talking
About Hillary.
about
Mistakenly
Hillary.
thinking
Mistakenly, and he's telling me, I got to tell you.
I'm gonna.
Oh, he went on and on. This is the finest hearing aid money can buy. I said,
Really?
well, really? I'm trying to keep it. Oh, yeah, what kind is it? 4 o'clock.
We can't, you people.
Okay.
You have got to stop.
Yeah.
There's a woman
You
in the
just
front row
heard
here
it.
who I
Yeah.
have to. It's
No, my
so
psychiatrist,
stupid.
okay, you get tired, but my psychiatrist told me I'm crazy. I said, I want a second opinion. He says, okay, you're ugly too.
There we go. You have to tell the.
Actually, this has been a big week for me.
Really?
Oh, yeah, I didn't tell you. Yeah, honestly, I signed a new cable contract.
Really?
Yeah, thank you very much.
How many channels do you get?
No,
Hecklers in the audience.
the real punchline is next Thursday, they're going to install it.
Well,
What's it? Tell the.
that's funny. It makes me think of, I've done a lot of
Nothing makes you think.
No, it's true.
I've done a lot of stuff in my life.
Yes, oh, gee.
And one of the things I did, you know this, I've told you about it, is I've been a college professor.
Yes.
And I
yes.
was for a number of years.
And then you
where I
taught at
graduated.
Xavier.
But boom.
That's my alma mater too, Jerry.
And
Oh, nice going.
I was teaching my class
Yes.
at the university one day.
Yeah.
And I taught, I stopped since I started doing the podcast, but I taught in the graduate school, at a graduate school at Xavier. So a lot of my students were adults, and it would not be uncommon for a woman who was pregnant might be in the class. That
Yes.
happened on occasion. And I remember was giving an exam one time, and there was a woman who was pregnant, and everything's quiet, everybody's working on this exam, and I see her kind of go into distress. She's grabbing her stomach, and I ran over, and I said, "Are you okay?" And she says, "Yeah, my baby just kicked." I said, "Man, I'm sorry about that." She says, "Yeah, me too. Usually he sleeps in this class the same as I do."
Can we start the podcast now?
Hey, listen to this.
Well, I have no choice.
I'm not even looking at you.
Hey,
Right?
Megan.
I can't even tolerate your
Listen
face.
to this.
What?
What's that, Gene?
Last episode,
Uh-huh.
Melania Trump,
That was great.
previous to last episode,
I know. Yeah.
called in.
Yeah.
She doesn't call in the show. She calls in to the answering machine in
So
the podcast office.
I have this like mental image of her like crouched in a bathroom.
That's the way it sounds. Because I think she said on the last
Don't-
one,
yeah,
the
don't
first
tell
one,
Donald.
Don't tell Donald.
Yeah.
'cause he's
Her
a-
bathroom is bigger than your house.
I promise you it
Probably
is.
so. But she said, I heard it, I remember it. She said, Donald is no longer allowed to tweet.
tweet.
And I am told I must stop my late night phone calls. You
Right.
must do this.
This is
So I talked to David
Oh, that
before the
poor
show,
woman.
and I said, I had forgotten about it. Has she, by any chance, I'm hoping like hell she had, left any more messages? He said, right, David?
Yes.
He's saying David Pruso of Ambient Studios, our technical producer, she has. So I begged him, can you somehow, however you do it digitally, pull that off of my machine and get it onto the podcast? And I think he has it. Would you please play it?
This is Melania Trump,
I want to just hug
the
her.
first lady to be.
Voicemail number 2.
Wow.
Yeah. second one.
Hello, Jerry. It is Melania. I watched your television show yesterday, and I have a question. When Tyrone said he'd do sex with priest's mother, was this man turned into a woman? There was so much shouting and things going on and wigs flying everywhere. I did not hear, and it made me not sleep well. Well, my family is starting to pack and move into the big White House, and I am starting to help my Donald write his big speech. He will dedicate it much to helping our America, and he would be so dedicated to all of the peoples, both living and the dead. So I wrote this for him for his take-office speech. It is for us, the living, we here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they are here, gave the full last measure of
David,
devotion.
hold on a second. That's the Gettysburg Address. Isn't it? Am I wrong? Play some more of that. Listen, put that in your head, the Gettysburg Address. Keep playing
We
that.
here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that the nation shall have a new rich birth of freedom, and that the government for the people, by the people, and from the people shall not perish from this earth. Well, tell me what you think of it, Jerry. I hope you love it. We talk soon, and bye-bye.
It's Melania Trump. That's the Gettysburg Address.
Reciting the Gettysburg.
Plagiarizes every.
She just doesn't know. God love her.
Yeah.
How do you think it happens? Do you think she was like
just stumbling
reads,
upon
she reads
it.
and
Yeah.
stumbles upon stuff?
It's what sticks,
And
I
somehow
guess.
it relates to a concept she has of what he should say.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, she's not off. It's just not
Yeah.
hers.
yeah. And that's tight writing, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
When you hear that, that's tight writing.
Yeah.
That's Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
And that's good writing.
So you know
Because
it's
then
good.
you wrote a book, I know. We talked about it on another
But
episode.
eight,
Not good
but
writing.
eight didn't help me.
No. So what was her name? Laura Morton?
Laura Morton.
Yeah, so, well, it would have been interesting if, I wondered, because you read a lot, if she would have put in front of you, Ghost wrote for you something that ends up being, the
Well-
Martin Luther King, I Have a Dream speech, the
Well, I-
Gettysburg Address, or,
Well, I just remember the first line of the book that I wrote.
was it?
Ask not what your country can do.
It was the best of times. It was the worst of times.
that's how you started it.
That's how I started. Yeah. I thought it had a ring to it.
Yeah.
Something I've heard.
Hey, by the way, the Million Woman March.
Yes.
Let's talk about something
Yeah.
for a second. Because in the last episode, we talked about our audience of the Jerry Springer podcast and us as well, joining a petition drive to try to get the Electoral College approach to selecting a president changed. There are some petitions going around, and we're going to put one on our website, and we're going to try to
Good.
get people to go along with that. But listen to this. First of all, do you all know what the Million Woman March is? It's going to happen on January 21st, one day after the inauguration, January 20th.
Yes.
1 million women or more are going to descend on Washington, D.C., and march to make a point that this philosophy that is arriving in Washington behind Donald Trump, led by Donald Trump, of hating immigrants, women, women's reproductive rights, African American people, Native American people, Latino, Hispanic people, Muslims, that we will not tolerate this. And
Right.
there is going to be a statement made. Now, let me just say this. My daughter, my adult daughter from Orlando, Florida, my adult wife from Ludlow, Kentucky, are both talking about going. And they don't march. Excuse me.
Do you-
So this
yeah.
is a significant thing.
Do you have to be seriously, do you have to be a woman to march in that?
I
or
don't
that
think
takes-
so. I mean, I haven't heard.
I mean, I'll go as a woman.
I
Yeah.
I think.
No, I got that blue spaghetti strap dress. with that. No, but on
Whatever
a
he's gotta
serious
do,
note,
man, he's
on a serious
sacrificing
note,
for
in
the
other words,
cause.
everybody can join in. It isn't just women. Got
You
it.
know, we'll double check that, but
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that they just want sympathetic people, and obviously the vast majority will be women. But I think that's something that we should get behind, and we should
Oh, I
get
totally agree.
other people in
It's
our,
interesting they picked the 21st, the day after.
Right.
Logistically,
That's gonna be tough.
oh, it is,
Yeah.
simply because you have all the, the balls that night. People are gonna be getting up the next morning,
Mm-hmm.
all these Trump people, and then in come a million.
I think that might have been their point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They want to be seen.
There
They-
you go.
And they're not going
Exactly.
to disrupt the inauguration.
Oh, I understand. Oh, no, I'm all for
But
it.
the festivities
God
are
bless
the
him.
next day.
God bless him.
So,
I think all of us have been thinking since, Tuesday night when the votes came in. This really has been different than any election in my lifetime. This is the only time in my life that I've ever seen an American election where, when it was over, there are people that are really afraid. Fear. That's the new emotion. Look, if you live long enough, we've all been in elections which we lose, and we're frustrated or upset, even angry for a moment, and, we get on and move on. That's what democracy's about. You win some elections, you lose some elections. But I can't think of one incident through Vietnam, through Watergate, whatever else was going on. I never remember an election where after the election was over, people were afraid. And I think people are legitimately, not everyone, but there are millions and millions of people that are absolutely afraid of what might happen now. And Trump seems to be doing very little at this point to ease those fears. Now, what people are afraid about, the people who are afraid, is his attack, I'll call it, his attack on the First Amendment. And it isn't just his attack on the First Amendment during the course of the campaign, it's how it was picked up by his followers. Now, when you think of First Amendment, most of us initially think freedom of speech and freedom of religion. And, it's almost become a cliche now, all the things he said about Muslims, his attacks on minorities, Hispanics, African Americans, disabled people, everything. But it just seems to being absolutely opposed to the idea that this country is for everybody. We're going to build a wall, the whole bit. And it's caught on. And it's caught on with millions of Americans. That's why they're afraid. Because if you just look at the headlines in just the 1 week since, look at all the hate crimes that have been committed. Swastikas going up. A woman in a restaurant talking with her friend over lunch about the election, and then a Trump supporter came by and punched her in the face. You were telling me earlier this afternoon about at Ohio State, some student is giving a talk standing on the steps. A Trump person comes flying down the steps, pushes him from behind, and pushes him all the way down the steps. He got arrested. But all this, people are afraid. And if you're a minority, there are reasons to be afraid. Now, it isn't just race. It's also the First Amendment, freedom of the press. And Trump seems to be serious about going after the media. And not just like a joke, oh, the media is against me. Politicians always say that. Whenever there's a bad article, a bad article about you or a report, you're always blasting the media. But no, he's serious about this. He's talking about lawsuits against the media, lawsuits against the New York Times, the Washington Post. He's talking about banning, and Hannity, by the way, is supporting it, that the New York Times, the Washington Post, CNN should be banned from the White House. Here's a story. When the day when he came to Washington, normally a president or president-elect has a press pool following him around. And he did away with that tradition. No press pool following him. On a side note, do you know why there's a press pool? It's related to the story about how the development of television news, actually. Back, and just go with me on this side trip just for a second. On November 22nd, 1963, there was a fella on a little weekend vacation in Dallas, Texas. His name was Zapruder, and he had a little home movie camera that he got for opening up a bank account. Remember back then they used to give prizes if you would open up a savings account at various banks, they'd give you a little prize. So he had a home movie camera. And he took his home movie camera. He heard that President Kennedy was coming by in a parade that afternoon at noon. So he goes down to the Daily Plaza, and he's there, and all of a sudden, here comes the motorcade, and he turns on his little Brownie home movie camera. The pictures that he has of President Kennedy being shot are the only pictures that exist in the world of the Kennedy assassination. Anytime you have ever seen those pictures with the back of the president's head grabbing for the neck, Jackie getting on the back of the car, you've seen it in newspapers, obviously, magazines, TV shows, textbooks. Our kids grow up with it. They all came from this guy's home movie camera. That night, all three networks, back then we only had three networks, decided that never again would they miss a moment in history because they had none of this. And so that is when the newscasts expanded to a half hour each night. That's when they started to have reporters assigned to the president 24/7. The only time the cameras are not on the president is when he's in the bathroom or in the bedroom. Do you ever wonder why when President Reagan was shot, why we have all those angled pictures of that? Think about it. He was in Washington, D.C. He was just coming out of a lunch that he spoke at a hotel there. He literally was just walking across the sidewalk. There was absolutely no news to cover. It was just another day at lunch and giving a talk to some people. And yet we have all the pictures. Why? Every second of a president's day, except when he's in the bathroom or in the bedroom, the cameras are on. Some pool reporter is with him. They used to back then call it, sadly, the assassination watch, because they don't ever want to miss it. We have another example of 9/11. When 9/11, imagine if you couldn't find the president, you couldn't find the people who were in charge. Well, Trump, a few days ago, he tells the press that he's going to be staying that night in Washington. In fact, he got on his own plane and he quickly took off without any media and went back to New York. Now, if you're a private citizen, you can do that, but he's now president-elect, leader of the free world. We have to know where you are all the time. It could be a crisis. Americans have to know where the leadership is, what's going on. It's an example. I took you on this side trip because it's an example of the disdain he has for the concept of a free, even critical press in the United States of America. You cannot have democracy if you don't have a free press. Because if you don't have a free press, then voting means nothing for any office. Because the only way you can have in a country of 320 million people enough information to make a judgment as to what policies you want, what people you want in office, is because information is given to you. That's the job of the press. Even when it's biased, then the chances are there'll be some reporters that are biased in the other direction. It's not perfect, but you have to have the free press. That is just as much a threat to our freedom as the racism. So what people are afraid of is, one, he doesn't seem to believe in this concept of a nation for all religions, all races, a welcoming nation. And two, he doesn't believe even in the fundamental issue of a free press. That's what distinguishes us from dictatorships, is that, you know, we have a free press here. Now, so people have legitimate reasons to be afraid. Certainly if you're Hispanic, you're afraid. If you're Muslim, good Lord, you must be afraid. I mean, seriously. Think getting up in the morning, you walk down the street, everybody's staring at you. What a horrible feeling to live in a country where, you know, people just, it crosses your mind. Oh my gosh, you know, do they think I'm a terrorist? Do they think I'm un-American? All this stuff, it's horrible. They're afraid. And now, this, I just don't get it. He chooses as his chief advisor, his #1 consultant, this Steve Bannon, who comes from Breitbart News, who is an admitted white supremacist. The paper has been the platform for white supremacy. His appointment, he just left it, by the way, about 6 months ago. His appointment has been cheered in the last 2 days by the KKK, the American Nazi Party, Richard Spencer, who is the head of the white supremacist, I think it's the White Supremacist Council, I may have the name wrong, but the white supremacist organization, David Duke, every one of them, and the quotes they're saying is, finally we're going to have our ideas in the most powerful office in the land. How does that make anyone give up their fears? And Trump says, I want to bring people together. Of all the people in America, why would you choose him to be your #1 advisor? I can't even come up with a conceivable reason. Don't tell me that's the only person that knows politics. Don't tell me that's the only person that's smart and conservative. You could get all kinds of people to fill that position. But a white supremacist in the White House? Have we gone crazy? Here's what I think should happen. Here's what I want our media to get on Trump about and demand a response. If he's not going to get rid of him, then I think Stephen Bannon has to appear at a press conference before the American people and disavow white supremacists. He has to say, whatever my past has been, it is evil, it is wrong. I do not believe that this should be a white-only country. I don't believe what I said about Jews, what I've said about Muslims, what I've said about all these religions, Hispanics, whatever. He has to renounce that. He has to do it. Otherwise, people are not going to stop being afraid. Because what is the argument for not being afraid anymore? If, you know, sometimes people get afraid and we say, you have no reason to be afraid. You know, he wants to do a good job in the White House and he's going to, you know, and people will be reasonable in the end. He just wanted to get elected. I could even possibly believe that because people do those horrible things to get elected and then they turn out to be better. But even when I want to believe that, because I want a president to succeed, this is our country, I want it to work. But then the first thing you do is you get a white supremacist to be your advisor? I can't even, if someone said, I'll give you $10,000 if you, well, 10,000 is nothing. If, no.
That was so quick.
Why do I do that? In a key moment, I just blow it.
Think about it, did you?
No. But, you know, come up with an argument for it. What is the possible other side? Did you pick a white supremacist to be your #1 advisor in the White House? The last person he speaks to every day. The person that sits in there on the national security briefings every morning. It's insane. And why are we just, well, yeah, he picked him. No, I don't like the guy. He's got to renounce it. It is now Steve Bannon's responsibility to renounce it. Every time he appears before the press, before everything, before he makes one statement, the working press should demand, will you renounce white supremacy? Until we get that statement, we can't go any further. We can't go any further. This is what we ought to be united on. You want to be a conservative, you want to be a liberal, you want to, we'll argue policies later. First, this is about what America is. And if we can't have that statement coming out of the White House, we have nothing to talk about.
That's another cause we may take up and push, starting with a tweet about that, Jerry, because you have a lot of Twitter followers, and you may want to tweet that out. We're going to bring up Brian Olive. Let me tell you a little bit about Brian. He's our featured musical guest for the evening. Welcome, Brian. Thanks for being here.
Thanks.
And Brian has an album coming out this spring called Living on Top. And your career as a producer, you write songs, you sing songs. We're about to hear some, but you produce some pretty good people, by the way.
Yeah, I've been doing that for about the past 5-6 years, something like that.
And for example, you produced Dr. John's Grammy Award-winning Lockdown, right?
I played and co-wrote that one.
Played and co-wrote.
Yeah.
And you've also produced The Tiller, as I understand, and correct me if I get any of this wrong, and both Electric Citizen albums, right?
Yes.
And you have a studio in Northside, which is a neighborhood in the Cincinnati area.
Yes.
Which is a growingly well-known neighborhood because it's an enclave of some very creative people. I keep talking about Ludlow. I sometimes joke about Ludlow being Northside South.
Yeah, it's similar, yeah.
It has the same possibilities.
Yeah, there's a lot of artists and people doing a lot of things.
Yeah, so we're real glad to have you come here for the first time tonight. And we'll start us off with a song.
Are you just one quick?
Yeah.
Are you looking for new acts to produce?
Oh yeah, always. Yeah.
No.
You can't see this, but Jerry Springer just raised his hand.
We'll talk after the show.
Run.
Hey, Megan, isn't it interesting?
Everything comes
He did
back.
well. Yes, it does.
It all comes back
And
together.
he has performed. Jerry Springer has performed on 2 CDs.
He sure has.
And Joe Richard, who's in the audience tonight, brought in one, and then I gave him. We swapped. Joe had an older one. He
Keep
got
that
it on
art moving
eBay
around.
for about 35 cents, and then I had one that is a newer one. But isn't it interesting? He just asked Brian if he would produce him, and he didn't say the Jerry Springer Trio, which you and I are part of.
Right. It's all very
Jerry
true.
Springer Trio is a
Right.
vintage folk trio.
Are you guys here every week?
Right, I'm Megan, this is Jene. Gene Galvin, that's how you pronounce it, Megan Hills, yeah.
Hey, Brian, do a song for us, please. Brian Olive.
This song is called "Say What You Want." It's on my new album coming out this spring. I was a lonely man when you found me. I didn't know I'd begin to see the mystery to end all my sorrow. Say what you want, but don't say goodbye. There is no reason to run away and hide. You helped me break away from the wrong that the world had done, and the bitterness
sting that living brings. Well, I feel it no longer. Say what you want, but don't say goodbye. There is no reason to run away and hide. Before I knew your name, I threw love away. That time is gone, and I can't take all the weight of the world on. Please tell me how you feel. I can live just to be your man. And you know, someone new, they just won't do. For now and tomorrow, say what you want, but don't say goodbye. There is no reason to run, don't run and hide. Say what you want, but don't say goodbye. Oh.
Thank you.
That song is called Say What You Want by Brian Olive, and Brian has if you want to hear his music, you can go to brianolivemusic.com, O-L-I-V-E, brianolivemusic.com. And you have a recording studio as well in this neighborhood we've been referring to in Cincinnati, Ohio,
Yeah.
called what?
We're building the studio now,
Right.
expanding on the old place. The old place was called the Diamonds, and this new one is going to be called Mount Saturn Recording Studio.
Mount Saturn Recording Studio.
Yeah.
So if people wanted to get in touch with you, if they are either regional performers or otherwise, I guess they could do so, right? Maybe through your website?
Yeah. The website for the studio will be up soon, but if they want to contact me, there's a contact submission on the Brian Olive Music.
OliveMusic.com.
Yeah.
Do a second song for us, and what's it called?
This song is another song off the new album. It's called "It's a Lie."
Okay.
I'm breaking down 'cause it's been so long since I had you for my own. Shifting shape and you're using tricks. Won't you leave my heart alone? It's a lie. Ain't it true that our love is a lie? It's a lie. Ain't it true that our love is a lie? All the other guys are hanging around and looking for a fight. You just keep coming 'cause you're so inviting. Why won't you do right? It's a lie. It's true that our love is a lie. It's a lie. Ain't it true that our love is a lie?
solidmusic.com, and album coming out this spring, and we'll be looking for it. Living on Top. Would you take us out on Good Night, Irene?
Sure thing.
Would you let Jerry Springer sing with you like a,
You can say no.
a duet?
Yeah. I know which verse it is too.
Yeah, because he only does one.
And if this works, you could produce it.
Yeah.
All right.
You're going to have to carry him, Brian.
Last Saturday night I got married. Me and my wife settled down. Now me and my wife are parted. Think I'll go out on the town. Irene, good night. Irene, good night. Good night, Irene. Good night, Irene. I'll see you in my dreams. Sometimes I live in the country,
Singing all produced now.
and sometimes I live in town. Sometimes I live in a country to jump in the river and drown. Irene, good night. Irene, good night. Good night, Irene. Good night, Irene. I'll see you in my dreams. You all come back now, you hear?